So, I once adopted a cat, to impress a girlfriend I had. Uh, Now, she won't leave the house and drinks out of the toilet. Um, the cat, that is, the cat won't leave the house and drinks out of the toilet. The girlfriend, moved on to better things than me. What can you say? I had a dog when I was in high school. But it got shot by a farmer. It got shot and killed by a farmer. So, it was out killing. It was a big dog, and it was killing the farmer's sheep. So, sad. Kind of my life is almost kind of like a country western song. My girl left me, my dog got shot. Anyway, Pet Sematary. That is the novel we are going to review today. As you know, I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press, and I am reviewing on my channel all the Stephen King novels in publication order, but we've made a mistake. I'm reviewing Pet Sematary before Christine. Christine actually was published before Pet Sematary, but I made a mistake, read this one, listened to the audible.com version, and so I'm going to review it out of order, so, I'm not perfect. I am, as you can tell from my history of pets, I am just not perfect. I make mistakes here and there. So let's talk about the novel Pet Sematary. I think this is Stephen King's one of his better, if not best, monster books. I classify Stephen King books into two different categories. The monster books like, Salem's Lot and Cujo and Pet Sematary, or sort of the psychological thrillers like The Shining and The Dead Zone and whatnot, and Carrie. This one is a monster book, and I think it's his most clever monster book that he's written. I really do think this is the best one that he's written of the monster books. And everybody's probably familiar with it. I do spoiler-free reviews, so if you've not seen any of the Pet Sematary movies, or if you have not read the book yet, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. I just do a general sort of overview of the plot and how much I liked the book or disliked the Stephen King book. In this case, I really like the book. I really liked it. It's one of my favorites. This starts out with a family that moves to a new town. They get a new house. The father has a new job. The father's name is Lewis Creed. He gets a new job at the hospital. They get a nice new house. Everything's hunky-dory. They have, his wife Rachel is doing well. Their daughter Ellie and their son Cage, two small children. Seems like everything's hunky-dory. A brand new house out in the woods. Perfect, idyllic life. They finally found it. They've got a great neighbor named Judd. Great forest around them. Their house is in a beautiful setting with a forest in the background. And then things start to go bad. As in every Stephen King book, things start to go bad. Well, what happens is they find out that there's this creepy little area in the forest behind their house called the Pet Sematary, where all the kids bury their pets. And Lewis Creed thinks that this is a little odd. Well, why are all the kids burying their pets out here? It's kind of like a little occult like little thing, kind of like my Rush symbol. It's just weird. It's kind of creepy and weird and satanic out there in the woods, and he's a little bit creeped out by it. And Judd, kind of tells him a little bit of the history of this little Pet Sematary, and Lewis doesn't really believe it because Judd says, you bury something out there, it might not stay dead. Well, what happens is, and these aren't spoilers, these are all in the first part of the book to set up the book, but they've also got, the Creed family also has a cat named Church. They all love it. He's part of the beginning of the story, and the cat ends up dying, getting run over, and they don't want to upset their kids by telling them Lewis Creed does not want to upset his kids by telling him the cat's dead, so he takes it to the Pet Sematary, buries it, and he's just going to say, the cat got lost, right? So he tells the kids the cat got lost. The cat's lost. We don't know what's happened to it. The kids are sad, but they don't think that it's dead. Well, what happens is the cat, buried in the Pet Sematary, comes back to life. And, monster movie stuff starts happening. One of the really toughest scenes to read that Stephen King ever wrote is what happens next with Stephen King's child, the youngest boy, Cage, who goes out into the road, into the highway, wanders out into the highway, and he is also struck by a truck, and he is killed. And Louis Creed is so overcome with grief, he takes his boy. He sees what's happened to the cat. Church has come back to life. He takes his boy up to the pet cemetery, buries his boy in the pet cemetery, and that is the point in which everything goes straight to hell. After that, and that's all that stuff happens within about the first fourth of the book. So no spoilery stuff. I leave the after that, you're on your own. You get to that part, you are on your own in the story. It goes sideways and wicked and bad and chilling. And Stephen King even calls this book the scariest book he's written, the book that scared him. And so if it scared Stephen King and he's calling it his scariest book, I take his word for it. And to me, it is. It is a haunting book, and it's a unique premise. It's a fun book to read. It's got a lot of the Stephen King family drama and gore and violence and monsters just jumping out of the corner at you. It is a bloody good, fun book to read and to have in your collection. And I give this, you know, it's not really the movies capture the book somewhat. I mean, I was trying to gather my thoughts around the movies, and I think the first movie that they made of this book was better than the second movie in following the story. The next movie that came out just a couple of years ago, if not last year, it tinkered with the story just a little bit. And, you know, this is not one of Stephen King's more literary pieces of fiction. You know, I talk in my reviews about, you know, how Cujo kind of had a literary bent, kind of underweaving everything and a lot of that stuff. This one does not. I think that this is a pretty straightforward, just horror novel. He wasn't really going for anything deep other than a lot of jump out at you scares, and it's effective that way. It's effective that way. This is no John Irving book with crazy zombie cats in it. This is just a piece of this is a McDonald's hamburger and French fries in terms of literary prowess, and compared to other Stephen King things he's done. But it's one of the funner novels he wrote, and one of the better ones, and probably the scariest if you're into scary and Stephen King. So I give this book, even though I am reviewing it out of order with Christine, which is another great monster book, and we'll get to that one next. I give this book, because it's one of my favorites of King, Pet Sematary gets a solid 9.5 out of 10. Great, great, great novel. Great book. Great fun. I mean, you're not getting anything deep here, but you are getting, you know, you are getting Stephen King scary stuff ramped up to 10, ramped up to 11, ramped up to stun, you know. Very good Stephen King. One of your best. Absolutely, probably in my top 10. Might be creeping up into my top 5. We'll find out, though, when I review everything, because I'm only about a fourth of the way through the Stephen King catalog from beginning to end. And so we'll see what comes up next. 9.5 out of 10. Let me wrap this video up by saying every novel I write, whether it's The Forgetting Moon or The Blackest Heart or Lonesome Crown or anything, is dedicated to Stephen King, Motley Crue, and the Oakland Raiders, because those were my 3 favorite things as a kid. They meant a lot to me, so they get a shout out in every video I do and every book I write. So Pet Sematary, folks. Pet Sematary, go get it. It is great.